Hello, hello. Patience here. I'm starting just a smidgen early on the show today. But today, I want to address how to effectively set realistic and achievable goals. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with you today to bring you some new insights, I'm hoping, and some things that will make a difference to your quarter. So, just by way of introduction to the show, let me extend a warm welcome to you for joining me today on the Visionary Introverted Woman Show. It's been a while. So, I'm your host, Patience Ogunbona. I'm a business and leadership coach who works with introverted female entrepreneurs and leaders. And today, you're on the Visionary Introverted Wo- Woman Show. And this is a show that helps you either as an entrepreneur or a leader who is looking for a way to step out to fulfill the ambitions that they want, step into your full potential in the marketplace that you find yourself, and to step up and influence and lead. The show is all about bringing you the right strategies and helping you to harness your introvert strengths so that you can go ahead and succeed in life and in business. So, I want to be able to spend some time with you today and share some good insights about how to effectively set achievable as well as realistic goals. So, today, what we want to do is to make sure that your quarter is going to be great. As usual on the show, I love to share stories. So, but before I do that, I want to just let you know that I'll be running a workshop on the 13th of April at 7 p.m. UK time. And it is titled How to Move from Goals to Growth. So it's kind of an extension of what we're talking about today, because today we're talking about goal setting, right? But then there is that other element, that other stretch that you need to have to be able to step into growth. But we know also that most highly driven, ambitious people don't need to be told about setting goals. Yeah, they definitely understand the meaning and need for setting goals. And you probably watching today might say, I am that person. However, sometimes you find that setting goals can really just be tedious and pointless. And over the years, if you're not achieving what you need to achieve, you kind of feel like, what's the point of this exercise? Maybe I should spend my time just going with the flow, right? Yet there is value in setting goals. There is value also in setting SMART goals. So, SMART, for those that might not know, stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time pressured or time measured. So, that is a popular acronym that many people use. And today, one of the things I've selected is to talk about the element of the realistic as well as the achievable. So the A for achievable and R for realistic. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to put it in the comments. If you also have any topics that you want me to be talking about going forward, because it's been a while since I've uh, been on the show doing this program, and I'm welcome to listening to the different topics that you might have that you might want us to have rich conversations on, because I love having rich conversations. So, on to the story that I want to be sharing with you today. So, the story I want to be sharing with you today comes from a while back. I had a conversation with somebody, and he was trying to convince me about something. So, he was sharing with me that three people got stranded on an island because of a storm. And because they were stranded, they didn't know how they were going to get back home or what the situation was going to be. The first person who uh, who was on the island said, um, "I don't think there'll be anybody coming to save us. I don't think we will be able to find a way to get off this island. I think we're done for and we're basically dead. So you guessed it, that is the pessimist. Then you've got the one that said, actually, let's just have hope. You can see if you look, maybe the storm will pass and somebody will come help us. Let's just have hope. Let's just sit here. Let's just pray. Let's just believe. So that's the optimist. And then we've got the person who says, well, I'm getting up. I'm going to go into the bushes. I'm going to see what I can find. I'm going to see what I can pick up. The likelihood is I'm going to start to learn to create a boat and see how I can save myself. Because it might be that nobody's coming. It might be that somebody is coming, but in the interim, I'll do something about it. And you look at that person, that's the realist. Which of them do you kind of fall into? And over the course of life, sometimes we fall into one or the other. And sometimes we actually find ourselves, firmly in one camp over the other. So the thing is, I want to talk about our attitude as well. That is part of the conversation I'm having today, is how our attitude determines whether we're going to be great at goal setting or we're not going to be great at goal setting. So when you look at that story, we're talking about three different kinds of people with three different kinds of attitude. So the first person, being the pessimist, is somebody who looks at life as a glass half empty. So in their mind, things are just as bad as they could get. And for them, the challenge is being able to see beyond the current reality that there can be hope. And also being weighed down by all the challenges that they've been through in life. And when you look at it from an introvert perspective, you could say that I just want to do a quick check of my video feed to know that it's coming through. Okay, so basically, the pessimist, and if you look at the pessimist versus, let's talk about introversion, where you have like four different types of introvert. You have the social introvert, you have the anxious introvert, you have the restrained introvert, and you have the thinking introvert. And the name goes in line with what each introvert exhibits. So when you think about the pessimist is not really looking forward to a great future, is not looking forward to something great happening. So they will tend to be very restrained. And when pessimism leads to being restrained, and when you are restrained, you will not take action. But at the same time, just because you're restrained doesn't mean you feel great. You'll be anxious. So you might say, and this is not just brushing everybody into the same box, but you might say that an introvert who is uh, who is restrained and anxious is somebody who might lean more towards pessimism. Then you have the optimist. The optimist kind of looks at life with rose-petaled glasses, right? They believe that tomorrow can be better. And they might fall into the category of being social, like the social introvert, or that person who has a goal and is willing to have a goal. Yeah. So the optimist is like that. Unlike the pessimist, the optimist is looking with rose petalled glasses and is seeing the world and saying, there are good things here. And maybe there are good things in my past that I can tap into, or in the future that's waiting for me. You know, the only issue is sometimes the optimist will over exaggerate what is possible, right? What is doable in the time frame with the energy. And sometimes there is no root to the optimism. You can go, hey, things are going to be great. But what is the root to it? That's the question, isn't it? So for the optimist, it's a nice feeling, and they can start off things with zeal, whereas the pessimist might not start. And even if they start, perfectionism can put a stop to that as part of why they're being restrained as well. But the optimist might say, I'm going to give it a go and give 10,000 things a go. So it's like, sometimes things don't have a deep root, but they are growing. So if you just kick them, they might fall off. So that's the optimist. So what about the realist? The realist and the optimist obviously sees the glass as half full. Yeah. So we have then the realist. The realist is not sitting on the side of, oh, it's half full, it's half empty. They're kind of, let's research, let's check, let's see what exactly is happening. Let's find out the facts. Let's look for some proof to be able to go forward with things. Yeah, which is good, I think. It's a good idea, isn't it? The only problem is sometimes the realist can get focused more on finding that proof and finding that accurate proof. So you can say that maybe in terms of the introvert, the realist can be the overthinking introvert who is overthinking things just because they're thinking about it, thinking, and being in their head and going through all the different options. Yeah. And maybe because of that, unlike the optimist who might decide to take a leap of faith, it will take them longer to take a leap of faith. And when they overthink it, they're not taking a leap of faith. So, based on this three different bits, which bit do you think you fall into? Like I said, for most of us, we go through the journey and we go through the different levels. I did in my life. I started off in life very moody, I'll have to say. And I think many times when you said good morning to me, I would think, is there anything going to be good about the morning? And I used to kind of be somebody who would be expecting the worst case scenario. Then I started to realize that that was circumstantial and had a lot of dealings to do with maybe environment of growing up and maybe the people around me. When I began to expand my horizons, I started to become more optimistic about life and realize that I'm this kind of high achieving person that loves to do a lot of things and can actually do a lot of things. Yeah. So, but sometimes I would start things with all the enthusiasm and all the energy in the world and then wouldn't finish it. So, this journey I have made, and part of why I'm doing the workshop next week, is to share a lot of those deep lessons and stories because we're going to be focusing on strategies that will help you build confidence, that will help you create consistency, and that will help you expand capability because it's all about moving from just goal setting to growth. And growth is the guarantee that tomorrow will be better than today, right? So that's why you can't stay stuck on the goal setting. And the goal setting is just like the entry point and the beginning of the journey. So when you think about it, what is the answer then? If you cannot be a pessimist to get do good, achievable, and realistic goals, if you cannot be an optimist to do achievable and realistic goals, if you cannot be a realist to do achievable and realistic goals, then who do you need to be? It's kind of a blend of the two good ones. I would say that there is always hope. So in life, and there is always opportunity to change. Because if you look at life and if you look at your own journey, one thing that is constant in it is change, right? Change is the constant that we have in life. So based on that, I would say that, you might have not heard of the phrase, but the best approach or the best individual to become as part of your journey is the optimistic realist. Yeah. So you might have not heard what the optimistic realist means or what it is, but it's somebody who has that healthy balance of looking at life in a positive way, but also knowing that there are challenges in life. It's kind of not denying. Sometimes the optimist might say, oh yeah, you know be in denial about reality of things. When I was in university, I had a guy who really struck me sadly for how he approached life. So basically, when everybody else would be reading, he would be spending time in the church office and he'll be praying. he spent most of his time praying in the hope that, that prayer that he's praying would lead to success in exams. He bombed terribly. He bombed terribly, and he had to repeat. Yeah. He had to repeat and learn the lesson. As long as he shifted his approach to life, that'll be better. So he had to apply some optimism, some healthy optimism with some healthy realism. So when we look at it from that angle, let's kind of address the whole idea behind optimism, realism. Let's look at all that. An optimistic realist. So who are they, and what exactly do they stand for? So I'm just gonna pull up my notes, and then I will share with you some of the great points that I have. So the first point about being the characteristics of somebody who is an optimistic realist is they don't spend undue time thinking about what is already spent and cannot be recovered. That's so important when you're looking at goals and you're deciding whether to go for something in life. Last year, or was it the year before, I saw a training by Seth Godin, and I think the title is "Don't Hoard Your Chips." And again, it was talking about a lot of people use what they have already spent, what they cannot recover anymore, as the yardstick for making the decision to do something else in life. And so while that's them being very realistic, about it. And so that also, there's another person called, uh, I think it's Barry uh, McGowan, no, Greg McEwen, and he talks about the sunk cost bias. So the sunk cost bias is where in accounting, basically, sunk cost mean it's underground. All the water that you've watered the plant with. Guess what? You cannot recover that water. You cannot say because you've watered the plant and it's not growing, you won't give it a go. You never know that there might be need to, like for me in my gardening, I'll put water, and then if I don't see progress, I'll go and get the feed that I can put in the water and put it in the water. That's the being optimistic about this plant surviving, yeah, and taking action. So the sunk cost bias is where you are stuck with saying that sunk cost, that water you have watered the plant with, as is not yielding, you are just going to either abandon it, or you're not going to take the next step. So the next one, therefore, in line with that, is learning from mistakes and moving on. Yeah, learning from mistakes and moving on. Because I thought about a quote today, and what came to my mind. Tony Robbins is known for talking a lot about the fact that, if children considered falling down, they would never walk, yeah, and never getting up, they would never walk, right? They would never try to walk. But here's the thing: a child does not consider falling down as failure, neither does he consider walking as success. It's just in their mind the part of the process. It's part of the process that their brain is telling them to do to get to the destination of success. And success is one day they find themselves walking, yeah? So thank you for joining me, for those that are joining me, and thank you for engaging with the conversation. I appreciate it. So basically, they don't take on mistakes and treat them as, the final destination. It's part of the process. And therefore, because of that, as a realist, so you're optimistic realist, you're going to take calculated risks. That's where the realism comes in. Yeah, you're going to set goals with some data behind you. You're going to set goals with some proof behind you. You're going to look at the proof. You're going to be great at reviewing. You're going to be great at referencing. You're going to be great at reflecting, because you want to take calculated risks. You want to set goals that are realistic and be optimistic that they are achievable. But you also want to set goals that will drive and push you to that next level that you want to go. That's where the optimism comes in. So, an optimistic realist is going to take calculated risks. So what's the next point? Yeah, they take a step back and they observe, record, and adjust the sail. I'm sure you've heard about this popular saying that says that the pessimist complains about the wind, right? The optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sail. So they adjust the sail to be able to get to the destination. Basically, what are we saying? We're saying that an optimistic realist is somebody who is flexible. They set the goals and put in place specifics, because when we talk about specifics, what I'm finding and what I'll be sharing is how specificity just can be that game changer. That's what I'll be sharing. One of the things I'll be sharing with stories during the workshop, and when we'll be talking about confidence, for example, and consistency. Specificity is so important. Yeah. But sometimes you cannot be specific. That's where you become an optimist and you have that ability to take a leap of faith. So basically, if we run through, what I'm saying is that you're not going to be an optimistic realist, you're not going to be looking at the sunk cost. Is sunk is gone, is like spilt milk. So you're going to be able to look at it and move on. Then you're going to be somebody who is willing to see failure or success as part of the process, not just a final destination. This gives always room for growth in both circumstances. Then you're going to take calculated risks by looking at proof, by reflecting, by reviewing, by recording, and doing all sorts of things. Then you're going to adjust the sail. So that's what I want to share with you. And I also then want to invite you to carry on the journey, on the process of looking at your goal setting habits and behaviors, understanding yourself better, whether you lean more towards the pessimist or towards the optimist or towards the realist, each with his own characteristics, and then looking at how you can become more settled between of becoming the optimistic realist who works all the time to find the balance, which many of us in life we do struggle to find balance. But if you are non-negotiable about finding balance in your life, that's what you're going to be working for. But balance sometimes can be tilted towards one direction as you try to stretch yourself to grow. Yeah. So here is a question. How do you feel? Do you not feel bad or failure when you don't achieve your goals? Now, here is a great question, because if you don't achieve your goals, feeling bad is a natural human reaction. It's a natural human reaction. The only thing is, if you dwell on that feeling bad, you are allowing pessimism. You are allowing yourself to say there is no hope. Yeah. That's why being an optimistic realist, what do? Why did I fail? In what areas did I fail? And is it really a failure or just a first attempt at learning something? Which, if I'm going to be realistic, I am not going to be good the first time. And even the second and third time, because we all don't have the same strength. So that's a great question. Feeling bad is part of your human condition. One of the ways I deal with feeling bad is I give it a deadline. Yeah. So I have it as a goal. It's a deadline for me to feel bad, after which I dust myself up and I say, what next? One of my coaches, that's her phrase. She said her children's coach, when things don't go well, they will say the coach will say to them, so what next? Because when you don't say, so what next, you're going to stay in that circle of grieving something that you cannot resurrect, for example. And what if the grieving process stops you from realizing that you can actually save and salvage something to move forward? So that is the attitude that an optimistic realist should adopt in the journey that they make. And you have to make a decision in our world today of the kind of person you want to be. You have to invest in that person. I like the phrase that I heard the first time I joined the John Maxwell team, and it was bet on yourself. And it goes in line with what Seth Godin was saying. You have to be willing to not hoard your chips. You have to be willing to play your chips. You have to be willing to put your chips on the table. And you have to be willing to jump into the journey of life and take part. It can be messy, it can be challenging, you know. So I'll be talking a lot about this, like I said, in next week in my workshop on the 13th of April at 7 p.m. UK time. I would love you to join me, and I would love you to and I would love you to come along. And what we're going to do is we're going to develop strategies to focus on building your confidence so that your ambitions are not just in the back burner, so that you're optimistic about delivering. Then you're going to look at consistency, which is very vital as a realist. And then you're going to look at capability. What do you already have that you're not using? And what can you do with what to find more or to build more capacity into your life? So that's what we'll be looking at. And coming out of that session, which is a 2 hour session, with a growth plan for you on how you can move forward and work on yourself to be more of an optimistic realist. So thank you, Yemisi, for your comments. Yes, you're right. Enough ranting. What's the next step? Yeah. Yeah, enough of ranting, enough of um, being sad. I give myself a deadline, and sometimes, but I also give the deadline a kind of stop and say, in 24 hours, the next morning is a new day, and each new day brings a new opportunity. And as a person of faith, I would just say, God's love is new for me every morning. So if he was angry for me yesterday, today his love can help me and build me with enough grace to move forward. So every morning, you can do a renewal and a refresh. I want to wish you all the best, and I want to share my most favorite quote. This is a quote I have used most of my life as I started to make my personal growth journey. And is this: impossible is an opinion. Feel free to disagree, plan out, and carve out your own path to success. Join me again later for another session of the Visionary Introverted Woman Show. Take care and have a wonderful day. God bless.